How's it going, YouTube? My name is Ryan Reyes, otherwise known as Sector 7. Welcome to my channel, Sector 7 Music. I'm a composer and sound designer for both video games and for film. So today what I wanted to do was go over the mock-up that I did for the Oddworld ReScøre I composed last week. And when I opened up my session, I figured out that I was in the middle of organizing it, and for some reason I just stopped completely. Check this out. So I can tell that I forgot because I was organizing my tracks and then all of a sudden I just stopped. What I personally like to do though is I like to customize each and every one of my tracks. This is how I customize my tracks with a picture of whatever instrument I'm using. So if you're on Mac, press Command-Shift-4, just like that, and you're gonna get these crosshairs right here. You can take a screenshot of whatever size you want. I'm only gonna take a picture of the actual mallets themselves. Perfect. Now that the picture is there, we can go into my track, right-click on the image there, go to Custom Icons, and then we can drag this bad boy into there just like that. Now you can click them, choose them, and then now that is what my track is. All right, guys, so let's kind of continue on doing that real fast. Cool. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so on to the next part of the video, which is showcasing the actual track itself. All right, let's do it like this. Perfect. And then we're going to pop the video out just real quick. Just a little bit bigger right over there. Not that big. Okay, so first and foremost, let's kind of play the whole track. We'll play it part by part. And then I'll kind of explain what I did. The first beginning of this was actually, it was pretty fun. Because as this is going on here, this image here, it reminded me of something that was very factory-like. I know that's on the nose a little bit, but you know, something that is just monotonous, just something over and over and over again. So I wanted to kind of introduce this part with a rhythm section. And with not just a rhythm section with drums or anything, but a different rhythm section of sound. Something that is just a pulse that kind of moves it along, just like a conveyor belt. Let's actually solo this guy. Okay, so what I wanted to do on this part was I didn't want it to be so musical, but I wanted it to actually be a little bit more textural. And alongside with that rhythm, bum, 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 that pulse that's going on, I did integrate a little bit of different intervals with it. Not necessarily making any sense out of it, but I just kind of wanted to showcase, like, you know, right here. Right when it shows it comes up, or it comes under the sign, and then it shows that part right there, I wanted to introduce a little bit of a different pulse, a different sort of sound. And then this part, so that part, that gritty echo part, right? This gritty echo part by random, I wanted to showcase this little light right here. That little light right over there, it just kind of made me want to implement something because it was so pronounced when it first shows up. And I wanted something a little dark and ominous, which this plugin Random was perfect for it. It's a very grimy plugin. So that was the first thing that I thought of, and it actually fits pretty good. And then from there, what I ended up doing was I wanted to introduce some strings, because as this image goes along, the way that I started composing it was that it was almost too fun, but I wanted to introduce a little danger to the mix, because Rupture Farms in Oddworld, it's not a fun place. It is not a good place at all. It is hell. It's evil and it's gross. So I wanted to introduce something a little more like something bad is coming, something ominous. And as you can hear here, my strings are starting to come on in. And as it shows the actual factory, it gets intense. And it gets a little louder in a crescendo way, and the dynamics get a little bit more. But it's not until this next part where it drops off, because you'll understand here in a second. So as the strings go through, now you see the factory workers slaving away, and I kind of want to introduce the workers with something a little less dangerous and ominous. They're sad, and they are just working themselves to the bone. But if you know the lore of Oddworld, Abe, along with the Modokans, these characters right over here, they tend to have tribes, and they are a little bit more to earth. They have they live in the forest, they live amongst the land. So I wanted to introduce something just a little bit more percussive that amplified that. So, which is this guy right here, which is actually not violin. These are wood blocks. I don't know how that came up like that, but that's what this is. Let's change that name too. There you go. I could put this under my percussion. There you go. It's actually this, which is kind of cool. So let's put in 25. There you go. So once we get into this phase here, and I still have my vamp here, my rhythm. I still have that going on because we're still in the factory. We're still in that whole environment. But I wanted to introduce something that introduced the Modokans as well, which are these wood blocks right over here. Now this part, this is where it starts to get a little more dangerous. This is where it's starting to introduce what they're doing at this factory at Rupture Farms. And it's not good. They are making really illegal stuff out of the creatures of Oddworld for consumption. And it's not good. So this game, if you haven't seen or played this game, I very, very highly recommend. I encourage you to actually play this game. It's a really, really great game, especially the remakes. But I digress. So we start off with this System 1 crescendo arpeggio. It gets louder and more intense as it goes on. And by the time it ends, it actually ends with a bit of a higher pitch. Because then the next section of this piece kind of guides you in, and it's going to introduce it in a certain sonic way. Coupled with this other worldly pad that I have here, it introduces that barrel and it shows you that it's not necessarily from this world. It's different. It is something that is, for a lack of a better word, odd. So I wanted to introduce a little bit more synthesizer to it, to this part specifically. Now, what's really cool about that is that I ended up panning this. If we go here, I ended up panning this guy pretty hard to a different direction from point A to point B. And then it stabilizes in that direction. So it goes from right to left. And as this actual image comes up closer, that's when you hear a lot of the more intense parts of those two synthesizer sections. All right, moving on. From there, we end up getting this here. Now, there's more at risk. Abe is escaping. There are guards chasing after them and turrets and all sorts of these things. So it's very high intense. So when the drums stop, I wanted Abe to come down and stop with them. It leads into the next part of the piece. So let's kind of go over that just real quick as well. So this one, it was kind of fun. I ended up doing both an arpeggio for left and right. This one I just wanted to indicate danger, and I wanted to kind of make it sound like there was an alarm going off. And like, he's escaping, we gotta get him, let's get him, blah, 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 that sort of thing. It demonstrates you being on the run. It gives the piece a little bit more movement and kind of goes with these guys here, which are going to be the drums. So here in 1 second, you're gonna hear the cinematic drums. And those drums, I wanted to introduce them as soon as whatever these guards are called. I forget what they're called already. But as soon as these guys enter the frame, then I wanted to introduce these drums. Kind of gave it a little bit of a sense of intensity. So when you listen to it again, I just want to play this real quick. And as they keep coming, and as the camera is panning, the drums are getting even more intense. This guy here, I think this one was just going to be a bass pulse, and I needed something to kind of give a low end intensity to it as well. The harder part, actually, now that we mention it, one of the harder parts about this was I had to match the drums, because I'm playing the drums manually, but I had to match a hit with the high ding of the bass pulse. Watch, you'll see what I mean right now. So what I did was I had to accent that drum beat. I had to accent that whole thing and match those dings of the bass, the bass sub pulse. And every time I tried this part, I played this part so many times, I can't even tell you. It was just a little hard for me to get at first, but eventually I ended up getting it. I ended up making the accents and everything on point, which I'm very proud of. I digress. Let's listen to it again. This next section, this is the level theme is what I was trying to call it. The biggest section, the biggest piece of music that you're going to play while you're playing as Abe, that you'll hear while you're playing as Abe. And so what I ended up doing was just doing something like a pattern that changes a little bit, but it doesn't change too terribly much, because you don't want to focus primarily on the music when you're playing a game. What you want to do is you want to play the game and have it in the background to give you a layer of emotion or a sense of what you're doing while you're focusing on playing the actual game. So let's check this next part out. This next part has a lot of arpeggios and just different ambience to it. And so, with this next part that I did, not only does it have ambience, and not only does it have like an arpeggio, not only does it just kind of give you a layer of the environment and a sense of the environment and atmosphere that you're in, but I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of different texture here and there. And, you know, continuing the factory theme, the pulse of that rhythm that you heard in the first beginning and the sense of it being a factory, I wanted to kind of keep it as a rhythm based arpeggio like that. This part right here, I didn't really add anything except for another layer of ominous and danger to it. So this guitar part just kind of enters in. And that leads into the next part, which finishes off that section there into a new section. So this section here, there's still a sense of danger. There's still a sense of, I have to escape. And as Abe is escaping, rightfully so, the background and the environment, the atmosphere is still very serene and beautiful. So I wanted to kind of play off of what we were experiencing and looking at the same time. When it comes down to it, this is a very ambient part, so I added a lot of pad. I added some arpeggiation, and I added some bells, some celeste, as well as a bass line, because I'm a huge fan of the soundtrack of a lot of games in the 90s where images and parts of your game that look like this had a very, I don't know how to describe the bass, but it was a very relaxing sort of bass line. You'll see what I mean here in 1 second. Watch. So that bass line was this guy here, and it is just complementing the ambient pads and the arpeggio and everything else. It's kind of just giving this part movement. And when it's accompanied with everything else that you hear, it gives it a sense of depth. And for this part, I did want to add a little bit of melody to it. A little bit of a singable sort of, not something too, you know, too grand, but definitely something to kind of give it a sense of a peaceful melody. I added a little bit of some cello here. And this right here is the melody part. For the melody part, I wanted it to not be so stagnant as much as I wanted it to be a little bit lingering with a lot of reverb and echo. What I did was I used ROM. This is a great plugin. If you haven't tried this plugin yet, definitely get on the ball in getting this guy. It's one of the best reverbs that I've ever had. So this is a really good one. The next one that I did was a huge Supermassive by Valhalla. I love Supermassive. This one was free when I got it. If it's still free, get it. You got to get this one. It's a really cool delay. Big delay. And this guy here is just an echo, so I wanted to add a little bit more echo, just a little bit more in 1/4 echo. And, you know, it came out pretty good, kind of like this guy. Let's keep on going, actually. So here I just added some low bells. This isn't playing, the bells will be playing. Oops. And then last but not least, this ethereal pad brings in this next section and really shows the moon. And I love that one part because this part here, let me just kind of show you that. This part right over here, nope, this one, there you go. So this here, I wanted the moon to come in because the moon is a huge character in the games. It's definitely a part of the Oddworld lore. So when you when you see it, I wanted to introduce it with some sort of echo, chorus, or something. And this is kind of what came out. Because he's looking, and there it is. But now he's wondering, and he's looking at his hand because he sees his hand in that moon image. He sees his hand, kind of looks at his hand, and says, wait, what? And so when this whole part is done here, that build-up, I wanted to still add that melody again, because that melody was kind of the flavor, I should call it, the vibe of this whole section here. And then it ends with the logo. All right, so out of that, you can definitely check out this whole mock-up in all its glory. I have another video on that. I'll post that one here in a second. And then on top of that, I just want to thank you guys again for supporting the channel. And I want to thank all of you guys for watching. It really helps the channel out. As a video game composer, as a composer in general, a sound designer, every single click, every single view, every single like, it really helps the channel out. All right, guys, again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Until next time.